A happy new day and great to have you join us for the Reporters Roundtable. We're discussing issues from all angles and from all sides. And today we're looking at curbing road accidents, a collective responsibility. We know that roads which are to serve as a safe thoroughfare are robbing us of innocent lives on daily basis. Several factors have been identified as the cause. These include the nature of the road, the conditions of the vehicles, and the attitude of the driver. Oftentimes, passengers find it difficult to speak against reckless driving, largely due to fear of intimidation. This situation has led to several avoidable crashes, resulting in increased deaths from road accidents. So we ask how we can inculcate into passengers the courage to speak out against any recklessness on the part of drivers. Join the conversation right here on the Reporters Roundtable and we'll talk more. I have in studio one of the country's finest journalists and also the producer of Behind the News on GBC Radio in the person of Mr. Seth Eyiah. Seth.
Becky.
Good to have you.
Thank you very much.
He is also a chief editor at GBC News here in Accra. And we will also be joined via phone by the Director of Regulations, Inspections and Compliance at the National Road Safety Authority, Mr. KODUAH. ATUAHENE will also join us, and you can also join us on phone by sending in your text message, by sending in your WhatsApp message on 0244745152, 0244745152. My name is Rebecca Eyiah, and as always, I help amplify your voice by bringing them alive. Curbing road accidents, a collective responsibility. So how dire is this problem?
Thank you very much, Becky. A few years ago, not a few years ago, I think in the last 5-7 years, the situation regarding road fatalities, has become a serious issue. And on the average, if I'm not mistaken, the country is recording 2,000 deaths on our roads, and as for those injured or maimed, it runs into hundreds of thousands. And the situation has been worsened because of the introduction or the use of motorbikes for commercial purposes. As we sit here, the use of motorbikes is illegal, yet because of unemployment, people have found it to be a very good means of making some money to keep body and soul together. And so this has heightened the accident cases. And recently, I think this year, the National Road Safety Authority or other National Road Safety Authority or the Police MTTD came up with some statistics, and it was obvious that the road carnage that we'll be having on our road, motorbikes or tricycle contribute about 40 or 45% to the situation on our roads. And year in, year out, we have Road Safety Authority. Previously it was Road Safety Commission. Now it's been upgraded to an authority, giving more power to do a lot of things. And I think the LI has also been passed or something. So now the National Road Safety Authority now has the power. Now when an accident occurs, it can go to the scene and look at the vehicle, whether it belongs to GPRTU or KODUAH or any other transport organization, and that organization is going to be surcharged. Look, we've taken it, the road accident, we've taken it for granted for far too long. And I like the title or the theme that it's a shared responsibility, because as a passenger or a commuter, I have a responsibility, and my responsibility is that when I'm on board a vehicle and the driver is driving and talking on the phone at the same time, I have the responsibility to tell the driver to stop making the call and concentrate on the driving. Now, technology has has transformed the way of doing things. So now instead of using the phone, holding the phone and talking, we now have a Bluetooth that they put in the ear. So you could see the driver driving and talking at the same time. You would think that he may be talking to somebody on the vehicle, but rather communicating with somebody outside. And also as a commuter or passenger, when I get to where there's a zebra crossing, I have to make sure that the oncoming vehicle will not put my life in danger. In Ghana here, it is commuters who rather plead with motorists to stop for people to cross or to use the zebra crossing. Elsewhere, it is not like that. So now, when you get even the one in front of GBC here, when we are coming to work and we manage to cross the first hurdle, they'll have to stand in the middle of the road and plead with drivers to stop for us to cross. That at GBC Junction will be having a lot of accidents there, vehicles running into vehicles, vehicles knocking down pedestrians, and it's been happening. As a commuter or a passenger, I don't have to encourage a driver to speed because I want to get to my destination on time. If you want to get your destination on time, wake up early and go to the bus terminal and pick or get your vehicle and get on board. The situation where we sit in vehicles and all that we do is to shout, clap, sing, and do all kinds of things also distract the driver. The driver loses concentration. Sometimes the driver may even think that a passenger is calling him. So instead of concentrating, he will turn the eye, say, who is calling me? So these are some of the things that as commuters and passengers, we should take very serious view of. Then as a driver, you have road safety regulations or the road traffic regulations.
Traffic Act.
That regulates the way you drive, what you do. Drivers, when they see 50 kilometers per hour, that is where they accelerate and they go 100 kilometers. You see, those road signs are not there for the fun of it. They are there to protect you, the driver, and the passengers that you have on board. Even if you don't have any passenger in the vehicle, or if you don't have anybody in your vehicle, if you are a private car owner. Because it is telling you that maybe you are approaching a town, slow down, drive at 50 kilometers per hour. This is to enable you apply the brakes for the vehicle to get to a stop, to avoid running into accidents. But what do we do? Because when we get to the town, that is where we try to get fans. So you see drivers, when they get to the town, they will start blowing the horn, pam, 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 and then you see the townsfolk waving at them, calling their name. Everybody who mentioned the driver said the driver had to blow the horn, pip, 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 that kind of thing. I think that the road safety regulations and the Road Traffic Act are there for our own safety.
But as passengers or even as pedestrians or even drivers, we have spoken about the Road Safety Act. I know we have a road safety person who will be speaking to on the program, but do we pay heed to them? Because looking over time with the examples that you have given, motorcycles on our roads now have increased accidents and carnages on our roads. We have the act all right, but what exactly are the major hindrances to our attempt to reducing these carnages to the barest minimum? What are we not doing right? What are we doing right? Well, you have touched on the side of the driver and the side of the law.
You see, enforcement of the law is in the bosom of the police. And so we have the police on our roads. But the question is, do they do the work that they have been employed to do on our roads? Maggie, I have traveled a lot in this country, and when you get to the road, while on the road, you see, today is Saturday, you decide to move from Accra to, let's say, Cape Coast. I bet you will encounter not less than 15 checkpoints on the road just this morning before you get to Cape Coast. Now the question is, what are they doing? When they see a private car, they allow you to pass. When a commercial vehicle gets to them, you have to stop. Now when they stop, we just go to the driver's side. They talk one or two. Then they will take the money, and then they will squeeze the money in their palm and they put it in their pocket. Just this morning, between Accra and Cape Coast Road. That's all that they do. Instead of checking to find out whether the vehicle on the road, everything on the vehicle is correct. They are interested in taking money from the drivers. Sometimes we hear that we have prosecuted a number of drivers, blah, blah, blah. So we've been able to rake in 10,000, 25,000 cedis and what have you. But the point is that we have so many commercial and private vehicles on our roads who are flouting our laws. If the police were to enforce the laws to the letter, it will go a long way to reduce the carnage and the fatalities on our roads. But they are not doing it. Once in a while, they will embark on some skirmishes, and everybody will think that, oh, our policemen and women on the road are really doing the work. They are not doing anything, Becky. Because you see, I'm using the Accra Cape Coast Road as an example. Because I apply that route a lot. I apply that route a lot. Right from I think just after Kaswa, the toll booth. Kaswa itself, you see them there. Buduburim, they are there. You get to Akoti. So they are on the road. Yeah, so you don't know. And you see, from Friday, Saturday, Sundays, I can say that it's a cocoa season. And the same thing applies Accra Kumasi Highway. This is where we have most of the accidents. I don't know what they are doing. Unfortunately, the police administration is also helpless. Nobody knows why. Remember, there was an IGP, something Taria. He's gone on retirement. You know, he tried to do one or two things. One day they went onto the N1, George Walker Bush Highway, and arrested some police MTTD officers who had collected a lot of 11 CDs into a black polythene bag. Ask yourself, what happened to them? That was an opportune time for the IGP to have used them as scapegoats. But the media carried it. We made fun of it. We called experts to talk to speak about them, and everything went away. They are back on our roads. So for me, if the police is serious about doing this job, I bet you, Becky, more than half road carnages and fatalities will be reduced so much on our roads. Look, these motorcycles, as we speak, it is illegal to use motorcycle for commercial purposes. And even that, as for the tricycle, there's no law governing its activity. So as for tricycle, they are having a field day. But motorcycle, there's a law. And I remember that law was passed either 2012 or 2013. And so that was why during the 2020 election, when John Mahama said when he is voted for, he will change the law and rather make it illegal so that the motorcyclists can be regulated. For me, I bought into the idea because 1, you will be registered. 2, you go for insurance. 3, you'll be forced to comply with all the regulations that govern road traffic, the road traffic law, all the regulations. Because now you'll be forced, if you carry a passenger, the passenger must wear a helmet. Now today, as we speak, there are some hospitals in Accra where those motorcyclists, when they get involved in accident, they will not allow you to take them to those hospitals.
Why?
Yes, because for fear that their legs will be amputated. So they don't like going to police hospital and a 37 military hospital. So as soon as it happens, they want you to take them to
a private hospital.
Either private hospital or rich. For that place, they will be safer. Because they know that, because one, they have not registered the motorbikes. So when they go to the police hospital, they will just look at, oh, this is the problem you have, okay. But then the leg will be taken off. Or the hand will be taken off. And that is a problem.
Sad as it may, but it's a very serious topic we are discussing, because around this time too, the carnages on our roads increases at an astronomical rate, and it behoves that all hands come on deck so that we can all, as a shared responsibility and a collective responsibility, we can reduce the carnages on our roads to the barest minimum. I have seen your text messages and your WhatsApps coming already on 0244745152, 0244745152. You can send in your message, you can send in your WhatsApp. Please do not call the line, just send in your text message or your WhatsApp, and we'll be glad to read them here. You will also be reminded that we are live on the Ghana Broadcasting Corporation Facebook page. You can follow the page, like the page, share the page, and so that you can also put in your suggestions there, because it will also help us and help the authorities to enforce the law to the letter. We would also be joined by Mr. KODUAH, ATUAHENE, who is also the Director of Regulations, Inspections and Compliance at the National Road Safety Authority. Because I have a viewer here, you didn't add your name, kindly send your name so that he can be able to tell us whether they are working or not, because this is what you said. The National Road Safety Authority is not working per my estimation. I understand there are more evil spirits in the air than on the land. Why there is zero or less why are there less or zero aeroplane crashes or clashes if there are more spirits in the air than on land? Hey, please add your name so that when Mr. KODUAH joins us via phone, he will be able to respond to all those issues, and he will also tackle the issue about the Road Traffic Act, especially with Sections 2, Section 3, and Section 4 of the Road Traffic Act, which talks about dangerous driving, careless and inconsiderate driving, driving under the influence of alcohol and drugs, and all of those. There are portions in there, but with even the highway code as to whether drivers, commuters, riders have knowledge of it and even have a copy of it is another matter altogether. So he will join us by phone, and he will also tell us more on that. The person has sent another test, and I'll try and get it so that there are bigger things they are not looking to. I would want to call to explain to the whole of Ghana, because with these accidents, there are bigger things that people are not paying heed to. I'll kindly plead with you that there's a live program, so in all humility, if you can send in your messages, we'll appreciate it. Don't call the line, because it's a test line and you obstruct our messages when you do call the line. So kindly drop every call that you are putting through this number 0244745152 and send in your text message on this platform as we look at curbing road accidents as a collective responsibility. But the president himself has said that road accidents must be treated as a global pandemic, and has called for a more proactive way to deal with it. How do you see this battle ending? Proactive way.
The president call is in the right direction. And if I could remember, about 4 years, was it 3 or 4 years ago, we're having serious road crashes and carnages, and so the president convened an emergency cabinet meeting where they came up with a number of strategies, including spending millions of cedis to re-engineer our roads. That thing, I don't know what has happened to it. road signs on our roads, I don't know what has happened to it. If that cabinet decision had been implemented, I believe sincerely that the situation would have been addressed drastically. But since the pronouncement was made, the follow-up, the money to be made ready for the implementation hasn't come. I think it involved Ministry of Roads, Ministry of Transport, and one other ministry, with road safety being part. I don't know what happened to that, but I think that, you see, Becky, it should be a concern for everybody. Now, even if I'm walking by the roadside, I don't feel comfortable, but I have no choice but I have to walk by the roadside, because you'll be walking and nobody knows what is after the person, or somebody says spirit or something. The person will just recklessly come and
run into you,
even when you are walking on the pavement. And now that the pavements have now become market centers, now you are forced to even walk on part of the road. So some of these things, we have to look at it critically. And for me, for us to succeed, fine, the president or the government must do its bit. Then we, the citizens, must also complement what the government is doing.
When you say must do its bit, what specifically are you speaking about?
You see, the government must make the funds available for re-engineering of our roads. And then the new roads that will be constructed must have all the road traffic regulation features. Government must be ready to crack the whip on the police. You see, we have Interior Minister, under whom we have the police service, the IGP, who is the head of the police service. They must combine their efforts and ensure that members of the MTTD live up to expectation, Becky.
All right, so members of the MTTD live up to expectation. I have been joined by Mr. KODUAH, who is the Director of Regulations, Inspections and Compliance at the National Road Safety Authority, to throw more light on this for us, especially when it comes to regulations, it comes to compliance, and it comes to issues of traffic management. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. KODUAH.
Thanks for having us.
What are the major hindrances to Ghana's efforts in reducing these road carnages to the barest minimum on our roads?
Well, I think that you want to look at it from two sides, broadly. I mean, on the individual level, we have grown in discipline, even though there are quite a number of laws that would naturally expect to guide our use of the road. We get into the road environment and we take to other practices. So the Ghanaian is increasingly becoming a discipline on a personal level or on an individual level. And out of this discipline, we indulge in as much of the misconduct. So speed, we are not law-abiding, we take risks and create problems for us, yet we do very little to deal with it. On the other side of the coin, you can also speak of institutional indiscipline or institutional irresponsibility. So there are quite a number of institutions that have a duty cut out for them, private organizations that are under license, that are required to provide one service or the other. Yet we look on, go to sleep, don't carry out their responsibility to the fullest. And this lack of responsibility creates risky conditions for those of us who come into the road environment and ultimately lead to the sort of numbers that we have. So broadly, I think I like to look at it from these two perspectives.
Okay, but looking at it from those perspectives, let's look at the Road Traffic Act. Now, as a commission, you have been given the impetus to be able to do that which you were not able to do when you were commissioned, but now with an authority. Bring us to speed to some of the areas, especially with Sections 2, Sections 3, and Sections 4 of the Act, which talks about dangerous driving. It also talks about careless and inconsiderate driving and driving under the influence of alcohol, and also drugs. When a driver is found culpable of any of these, what are the exit routes?
Yeah, so under our law, under the Road Traffic Act, which is offense legislation, I mean, those are what the law considers as major offenses. And even though well described as major, the consequences of these conduct offenses, in fact, the penalties for these offenses, in my view, does not align at all. But you recall that when this law came into force somewhere in 2004, in 2007 or 8, there was some advocacy by the public. The penalty for these offenses were too high, and we conspired against ourselves and raised a lot of noise, demonstrations. And government at the time had to sponsor an amendment in Parliament. And what we did by that was to dilute the penalties by 90%. So today, the penalties for such serious offenses have had to come down by 90%. So even though the law describes them as major offenses, I mean, indeed and in fact, the penalties, in my view, are not that deterrent enough. But that's what we have, and that's what we will have to work with until such a time that steps are taken to review the penalties again.
You tell us it has come to 90%, even though these are major offenses, looking at the Act in Sections 2, 3, and 4. Tell us what specifically the penalties involved. What amount is involved?
I think for careless and inconsiderate driving, for instance, in the old law, the maximum penalty was about 12,000. 12,000 Ghana cedis also. 90% means that today you pay a maximum of about 1,200 for offenses where you were required to pay a penalty in the thousands. Now the penalty is in the hundreds. So for most of the offenses under the Road Traffic Act, top of my mind, the highest penalty you pay is about 1,200 Ghana cedis or so, and it is not quite deterrent, if you ask me.
And in your perspective, are you saying that it is because the penalty units or the penalty attached to these major offenses are low, that is why people are going their own way, because they know irrespective of the magnitude of the carnage, they can still pay and have their way, so they will go ahead and dress recklessly on the roads?
Yes, I think it's partly accountable. It's partly accountable because what is the essence of penalties? It is to deter us from misconduct. So when the law says that you should not speed or you should not drink and drive, and you could drink and drive and end up pay a penalty of 300 Ghana cedis, I mean, to me, it's an incentive to misbehave. But if the law is so biting, punitive that you feel it in your pocket, at the end of the day, the intent is that you should not do it. The overriding essence of penalties is that it is not to encourage you to do it so that you are punished, but you should not do it. So that if you were to pay substantial amount of money for going on your own frolic to take alcohol and drive. The next time when you feel the pinch in your pocket, you will be rational enough not to indulge in it again. So I think we have to take a holistic view of the penalty. Let me give you one example. I mean, it may not be related to the 3 or 4 major offenses. Take the issue of broken down vehicles, for instance. When you leave your vehicle on the road in a dangerous position that may lead to loss of life, injury, and the police is minded to prosecute for such a conduct, you could pay just about 300 Ghana cedis. So what is the incentive for you not to try and move your vehicle outside the road and not to attempt to even fix the vehicle on the road when, in the unlikely event that you are even taking on what you have fined, turns out to be chicken feed. So we must begin to, in addition to all the advocacy and efforts we put in, I think that after close to about 10 years or so after the review, we must begin to take a second look at the penalty for some of these major offenses.
Is that to say that you're calling for a further amendment?
Well, on this point, I don't speak for the authority. Speaking for myself, I think that it is a matter that we must begin to look at.
Right, but you know that it is paradoxical because, you know, when it comes to offenses like murder, it is a crime that is punishable by death. But when drivers whose negligence and recklessness causes lives to be injured or even to the point of death, these people are left off the hook. With this, how do drivers in themselves become careful on our roads?
Well, they are not left down there. So in our law, if you drive to kill, you could suffer imprisonment of up to 3 years.
How about injury?
Yes, injury, you could be fined, but there may be additional civil consequences. So if your vehicle is insured, unfortunately, if your vehicle is insured has a third-party cover, and the third-party cover is unable to cater for the cost of injury, the tort fees are being the driver would have the additional responsibility, either on his own or through his insurance, to cater for the additional losses that may arise as a result of the reckless or careless driving. Again, how many of us take the trouble to follow the process to finality? So oftentimes, you take it up to the insurance, what the insurance is able to provide, in most cases, end of matter.
Hello, Mr. ATUAHENE.
Yeah, Becky.
Yes. Okay, so you're urging everybody to in the cause that you are involved in any accident, run through the process to the letter so that we can come to the finality of the issues.
Yes, I mean, in terms of punishment, the law, so the criminal and other offenses and the Road Traffic Act would ensure that the driver that may be culpable will suffer consequences defined by the Road Traffic Act.
But let me play the devil's advocate here. Let's say that the driver for which perhaps there are 2 vehicles that crashed, but looking at the situation, the one vehicle or the driver of one particular vehicle, the law will favor that driver, but unfortunately your insurance has expired, your roadworthy has expired. What does the law also say about that?
Yeah, so that's why as a passenger you have an ultimate responsibility to yourself. These days the National Insurance Commission and all of us, we run passenger empowerment campaign that, hey, when you get to the terminal, you must satisfy yourself that the vehicle made available for your use meets some minimum safety conditions, the public duty bearers will do their bit, and we continue to do our part of the bargain. But a lot of the responsibility also rests with you. In those instances, the National Insurance Commission may come to assist you, but the level of assistance they give may be far inadequate. So we have a duty to ensure that a vehicle put to our use is well insured, the driver has the necessary competencies, qualification, and permissions at a particular point in time. And I always make the point that today, if there's a cholera outbreak in the city of Accra, I'm sure when you go to buy or watch it by the roadside, you are careful who you buy from. But how is it the case that when you run into a terminal, it doesn't cross your mind to check whether the vehicle put to use is ready? So the passenger has a certain share of the responsibility. And duty bearers like the police, the DVLA, the National Road Safety Authority, the transport operators have their own share of the responsibility. And we must all be seen to work in concert in order to minimize this level of risk that poses these sort of concerns to us.
Are there also best practices of road traffic management elsewhere that you would suggest we import it into ours so that it can help our road traffic management system here in Ghana?
No, I think we are, in terms of the policies, I think we are doing well. And we need to step up our commitment to implementation. Ghana is a leader as far as safety management is concerned. You see, even though we are not at the level where we can be comfortable with, there are quite a number of countries within the transitional economies that are nowhere close to our status. In fact, until 2019, when COVID came in, there was no single year where you don't have countries within the sovereignty coming in to understudy what DVLA is doing, what the Road Safety Commission Authority is doing, the sort of strategies we have in place, national ambulance and the likes. But there's a lot to also learn from other continents. And those are the sort of things that the new mandate of the authority seeks to address. When I started, I said that beyond the individual and discipline and irresponsibility, there's a lot that is expected of institutions. And the new mandate of the authority expects that we put institutions to work. So that if the driver, if the transport company that provides service from Accra Kumasi does not keep its house in order, we must get to a stage where we'll wake up to news in the morning that the National Road Safety Authority has suspended the operations of transport company A or B because of poor quality of service. We are building up gradually to that time, and hopefully from 2023, the public will begin to see the authority in that light when the full complement of our mandate and necessary legislations are fully effective.
All right. Before you take leave of us, there have been issues raised about motorbikes. Recently, we know that there was a training that was organized for them because of the season within which we are. But it has been said that they do not have to be made commercial, and even per law, it is not commercial. Why do we still allow them to use the roads and sometimes even flout traffic regulations and all, causing unnecessary accidents on our road, and we look on without the law taking its full force?
Well, I think that's an enforcement concern, and yes, the law is very clear that they cannot be used for fair paying purposes except for courier services if a commercial intent is the case. So it is often difficult to determine whether the pillion has paid for a service, even though in some cases that is the case. I
Anyway,
think over the last few months, it will be very fair to the facts. We'll notice that motor riders are beginning to be very law-abiding within the city of Accra. Now, they stop at traffic intersections, and the obstructions caused by them is beginning to improve. We need to acknowledge efforts by the police. The police have what they call the police invisible eye and police action against rider indiscipline, where they have deployed a number of bikers with cameras that ensure that other bikers in traffic behave. And that is the approach. We want to complement that with as much education as possible so that persons involved in using bike as a means of transportation will be well exposed to the risk associated with their use. We'll continue to do that until a time where government will take a position. I mean, the issue of whether we should commercialize their use or not is a matter that is well above the authority. The authority is an implementing agency of government policy. So if government takes the position that that's the way to go, we'll figure out a framework to accommodate that. But until that decision is taken, our job really is to ensure that the current laws are enforced and will provide as much education as possible to minimize the risk associated with their use.
Right. Thank you so much. But how is your Arrive Live campaign doing?
Yeah, well, I think that with your support, it's taking shape. This year has been considerably good till end of November, and we hope to be able to end the year on a high. For the first time in a while, from January up to November on a month-to-month basis, there has been reduction in all the indicators as far as crashes are concerned. Crashes, injuries, deaths. Not a single month, the last 10 months have we recorded an increase. It means that somehow the campaign, with all the support we get from our stakeholders, is beginning to yield some impact. And we hope that we can sustain the gains. As a close of November, there's been 18% reduction in deaths as compared to the same period last year. We think we can do more and would intensify the efforts around the Stay Alive campaign, put a lot more power in ensuring that institutions, terminals, transport units, departments do their bit. Encourage the police to step up their enforcement so that we can do better to the end of the year and try to sustain the gains into 2023.
Right. We wish you well.
We are grateful and we appreciate your continued support.
Thank you so much. So, Mr. KODUAH, ATUAHENE is the director and compliance. He's the director and compliance officer for the National Road Safety Authority, and he's been speaking to us on curbing road accidents and a collective responsibility. He has touched on the position of the law. He has touched on the Road Traffic Act. He has also touched on road traffic management and how empowered passengers can be and should stand up also for themselves, especially when it borders on insurance and all other things bordering on paperwork of a vehicle. And I would want to bring you in also into the conversation, because I've seen most of your William says, hello Becky, the more I watch the footage on the screen, the more I get mad of the police, the National Road Safety Authority, and the infamous DVLA. You can clearly see in the footage that all the drivers and the pedestrians had no or little knowledge about the road traffic regulations. What are these aforementioned institutions doing to ensure safety on our roads? And this one is coming from William. I think William is the same person who sent us the question about there are more evil spirits in the air than on land. So why are there less aeroplane crashes? And yes, this is Philip from Amasaman. Please, my idea about it is that the manholes on the busy roads should lead to that leads to other roads. When persons are driving, might not really know that there are manholes there, so they need to be covered. Okay, I get your point. I get it. I'm Naziv from Kumasi Atasuman. So please, we need more traffic lights and speed ramps in our cities, and also the people are not using the zebra crossing, and that is coming from Naziv from Kumasi Atasuman. So faculty talking from Chifopra. So why are there many checkpoints on the road and the police don't want to search even private cars? It is sometimes weird because we are all vehicles. Okay, that is coming from Chifupra. So this one says, Rebecca, good show with you. Around this time we were waiting to hear something on this, and I love you all. Okay, we love you too. So add your name so that we know it is you who sent it. Let me see, I have other messages on the WhatsApp platform, and this one says, hello, thank you so much. Yes, penalties are the fines imposed at the court, but currently they are too low. So one penalty is just 12 cedis. So do the calculations. Yes, it is not deterrent enough. We shouldn't encourage the usage of motor tricycles or bikes for commercial purposes, since they are the leading cause of motor accidents now. I thank God we are here again, and around this time we are pleading with all motorists, especially drivers, to avoid excessive speeding, drunk driving, wrongful overtaking and overloading. Let's fasten our seat belts if there is, put on protective clothing and crash helmets when riding, and be patient in all our dealings on our roads. And this one is coming from Andy in Kumasi. Andy, thank you so much. What is the role of the Ghana police on our roads in curbing road accidents? Are they there to check driver's license and insurance tickets, which has nothing to do with road accident stoppages? They must sit up. Please remember to add your name and your location. My name is Billy Sally Osborne. I'm watching you from Akumadang. I disagree with our gentleman in the studio. You will see a vehicle in the road which is not supposed to be on the road, but such vehicles is having valid roadworthiness certificate and is having valid insurance certificate, in addition valid driver's license. So what would the officer on the road do to such a vehicle? I don't know what's brought about that, but that is what somebody is saying. Please call me. We are talking to them since nothing has happened. Kindly call Stephen Boateng. I don't know where this one is coming from. Oh, okay, we will call you, please. Hello, thanks so much for this important program. Nowadays, it's not the police personnel alone who are taking money from the drivers, but the military. Now when you reach the checkpoint, they straight away ask of money. Both police and the military, they don't check for license nor fire extinguishers, nothing. You can see some cars are not supposed to be on the road, but because they are taking money from them, they are allowed to pass. All right, we're grateful for that one, but remember to add your name. Paul Dalafu from Accra says, hello, I must commend you for this program. The carnages on our road is disturbing, and something must be done to curb the menace. Police are rather promoting the activities of irresponsible driving. It's worrying that you get to a checkpoint, you see agents collecting money from the drivers in the pretext of license on behalf of the police. It's time the police administration crack the whips on such officers. Okada riders faces a lot of harassment from the police each time they attempt to obey traffic regulations. They also overspeed to avoid arrest and extortion from the police. So it's a win-win situation. The police must do their bit. Okada riders will also do their bit. Keep the good work up. You know, if GPRTU were to be working efficiently and effectively, I don't see the police will be doing all this on our roads. They have to check the vehicle before they start their journey. But they don't do that. They are there for their token. Good morning once again. Okay. In KODUAH, driving from the hospital junction to the hospital is very worse. No sidewalks, overspeeding, they get caught, pay 5 Ghana cedis, and boom, they go away. The police is one of the failed institutions in Ghana. Oh, you think so? They are also doing their bit. We can but only encourage them to do more. The Road Safety Authority is not working per my estimation. I understand there are more evil forces. Okay, William, you sent that one, and that one has been read already. I think I have few minutes to go, so let me give you the final note so that how should passengers be empowered also to reduce our road clashes so that we'll call it a day? Yes,
before I answer your question, the gentleman who asked about it is believed that we have more
spirits in the air.
You see, that is how we've been nurtured to believe that we have a lot of spirits or evil spirits in the air. Now you see, his concern is that how come we have more evil spirits in the air, yet we don't have so many plane crashes, unlike the land. You see, unlike the land. But what he must realize is that when he obeys the road traffic regulations, the evil spirits or the evil forces will have no work.
And pilots really obey their traffic, yes, even in the air.
Aeroplane, aircraft's maintenance and regulations and what have you is something that is not compromised on.
That's right.
It is not compromised on. And they've been trained, even when they have serious problems in mid-air, what to do, what not to do, and stuff like that. But, Kwame said 18% of the road crashes has reduced. It's actually 18.18%. Even though it has reduced, the situation is still not the best, Becky. Look at this. In 2016, we had 1,802 fatalities. And the same year, we had 115,270 serious injuries on our roads. And then the first 10 months of this year, we've recorded 1,985 fatalities. And this number, 1,564 are males and 421 are females. Just the first 10 months of this year, we have recorded 1,985. And as I said in my intro, I said as a country, we record on the average about 2,000 road fatalities every year. So just look at this number. Look, the time has come for all of us to be responsible for our safety on our roads. Wherever we are, whether we are on board a vehicle, whether we are walking by the roadside, we should open our eyes and ears. And a lot of people, pedestrians are being killed. And for this year alone, so far, we have 557 pedestrians being killed. And I'm sure I will not be surprised if most of them had earphones in their ears.
Right, so we have been talking about cabin road accidents, a collective responsibility, and I was joined by one of Ghana's finest journalists. He's gone through the mill to be where he is today. He's a chief editor at GBC News and GBC Radio, and he's also the producer of Behind the News, a current affairs program that airs at 8 p.m. every weekday on Radio Ghana. Seth Eyiah was in the studio. Seth, thank you so much. Thank you. And we were also joined by phone by Mr. KODUAH, ATUAHENE, Director Regulations, Inspections and Compliance at the National Road Safety Safety Authority. Thank you so much. Your messages and your text meant so much to us, and we appreciate that you also appreciate this program. We are grateful. My name is Rebecca Eyiah, and as always, I bring your thoughts alive.